folks. Thank you for joining me today. It's very hot and humid. Saturday, August 17th, 2024, right here in your outpost on the West Coast. Interesting video we have today. It's fun, quick. It's gonna be hopefully a little bit interesting. And we have two special guests here today, right here on the Florentino Rebuilding Company, right here on his very workbench. Okay, what you're looking at there, and those of you who have been following the rebuild, is an Ed Alexander O-scale. It's an O-scale 2-rail, 4-4 American locomotive type. And right behind her, we have a piece of a World War II German Tiger I tank. It's a tank trade. I have several pieces here. As you can tell, I love history, but me and the kids were fascinated by this. And this particular piece right here, it's about 80 years old and hard to believe. Okay, here comes the history part, guys. This tank was built to Adolf Hitler's specifications. When it didn't quite work out the way he wanted, the engineers and designers couldn't quite get it there. He got mad. He sat down, apparently, according to PBS and other documents I've seen, documentaries, and he did the final personal design changes himself. This particular piece was destroyed in Ukraine, probably late during the war. More on that on more videos, and I've done videos on this on the past, by the way, on my channel. You can always look them up. But this is about 80-ish years old, more or less. Ed Alexander came out with these kits or already built up versions, depending on what the customer chose. You're talking about almost 90 years old. So this was around when this thing was in its design phase. When Adolf Hitler was bickering over details in the design, this thing was already, hopefully, I think, running on somebody's layout. Wow, history. History is just fascinating. But getting back to history, and this is the main reason why I'm shooting this video. This is the last time, as I took off pieces from our boiler. Let's turn the light on. And we're getting ready to do a lot of soldering and stuff. And I'm cleaning the brass so it's nice. Brass has to be nice and shiny in order for the soldering process to work properly. So we're getting all ready, and then I was about to do some soldering this morning, and I said, whoa, this thing is beautiful, just beautiful. At this stage of what you're seeing right now on camera, on your video screen right now, this is the most raw that I am going to be able to get to. This is the most rawest stage that this Ed Alexander locomotive kit is probably ever going to get to again for another 90 years. So from here on out, once I start soldering pieces and all that good stuff, then it's an Ed Alexander locomotive with Florentino Rebuilding Company, refurbishing or replacing parts and stuff like that, resoldering, paint, covered up in primer, then in paint, and we'll never see this raw form again, how she existed many years ago. So let's dedicate this whole video. It's gonna be a quickie video. We're just gonna tour our boiler. I'm gonna point out quirks and interesting things and stuff like that. Let's enjoy her one last time, because this is as raw as we can get her. Just fantastic. Just fantastic. Let me read to you some quotes from some satisfied customers, and I'm reading off of the literature that was provided to me by John Lyon. So there was a guy once upon a time named FEC. He was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I guess he acquired some items from Ed Alexander, and he wrote back, and they were included in the literature I got here. So he says, received the rail okay, and found it quite up to my fondest hopes. Wow. That's like a voice from the past. It's like we're time travelers. And the guy who wrote that's probably long gone. But you know what? That guy who wrote that is exactly like me and you, a modeler, an old scaler. And what he wrote, that he was that it quite up to his fondest hopes, is exactly how we would have felt today if we opened up a package when we get order something from online or eBay or whatever, and it's an O-scale product. Here's another one. JNS in Washington, D.C. says, my congratulations on the splendid job. My congratulations on the splendid job. Wow. I am going to repeat JNS in Washington, D.C.'s words there, and I'm going to say what a splendid job on this boiler here. So let's see here. We're going to see if we can identify what went soldered or what happened there. We'll take care of that. If not, we'll fill it or we'll paint it. Or if John Lyon, the owner, wants it just exactly the way it is, we'll do that too. Right here, you could see some of the original scribe marks, where you could locate all the whistle and pop-off valves and stuff. Original scribe mark, made by who? Well, I'm going to read to you a list of names here in a minute of who possibly was involved with making that particular scribe mark. And these rough filing marks over here that are kind of at an angle, fantastic. Here's some. Here you can actually see the teeth of the file. Right here on this piece right there, you can see the little indentations. Almost looks like a ruler. Beautiful castings of the sand dome here. Here's another neat feature that so your boiler would come. Those of you who build steam locomotives kind of know it isn't just a straight tube. You have a lot of taper points where the boiler gets thicker and bigger towards the back. And towards the back, it takes on a different appearance because it has to include the smoke box, the firebox part that comes down here. So it can never be a complete circle all the way to the back. But right here, where you see all this solder, someone soldered, and that looks like a torch job. And that's the line. This would have been kind of like a wrapper that would wrap over a little bit of that tube. And the tube being circular and this being extended downwards. And let's put that back. Get some more interesting stuff out of here. One of the lines came loose here, so you can see a little bit of solder there. We'll attach it. We'll use his original solder, and by that I mean I'm not going to add any more solder to it. There's more than enough solder there, and I'd rather use this 90-year-old original solder. Just heat it up a little bit and get it to melt, and put your piece on there, and then add brand new solder. The bell's still a little bit loose, but we're going to solder that back in place. There's another line that came off, so we'll address that. We're going to clean that up a little bit, and we'll attach that line back. Incidentally, I saved all the parts that came off from this. The parts that are just unusable or were not, like the headlight part, we return all those back to the owner. But all the parts that did take off, we save them, we clean them, fix them up, we reattach them back on the model. We're going to drill a little hole there. There's a little pilot hole there that I started. We're going to not only solder the smokestack back on, we're going to put a bolt through there and solder it underneath. I already went ahead and cleaned up the inside, top side of the boiler, so our solder will flow cleanly. It's still, I think I've explained it a few times. The locomotive is small, but she's very, very heavy. Usually when I have a model like that, I like to include at least 3 hard points where anybody from here out in the future can pick it up by those hard points and never have to worry about it coming apart. And the smokestack is usually one because human nature, little kids, a wife, even you or whatever, it's a quick grab, and or if the locomotive tips over for whatever reason, usually that's one of the parts. Being at the tallest can get dinged off. It's probably what happened here. So smokestack in this particular case, and usually in a lot of my cases, I like to make it a nice, really, really hard point. It won't affect any appearance to the locomotive whatsoever, but that peace of mind means a lot to the owners of these particular models, especially when they've been through a crash like this one. You don't want that to ever happen again. I struggled and I finally found one. It was a low ball MT3, a Southern Pacific MT3. And I rebuilt that thing, and I gave it a new paint job and new drive, and speaking of drives, well, anyways, let's get back to the story real quick. And I took it down to the club, and I ran in and everybody came out to look at it. She looked like $1,000,000, Southern Pacific MT3. And sure enough, she dropped the driver. She pole vaulted in the air after one loop around the layout, and she wound up on the concrete into a million pieces. It broke everybody's hearts. And guys still talk about that today. Let's see here. What other quirks can we find here real quick and share with you guys? So we have a line that comes from the cab all the way to our sand dome here. And that line ran through, this is original. So this is basically just a hoop where the line goes through there. And it probably had to have another one back here. So we'll put one in there, but we'll do some research, make sure that's correct. Or it probably had to have one maybe around here. But we'll look into that before we get to that part. Your whistle had a line. It's still there, as a matter of fact. I'm touching it with the pointer. Someone just tied it in there like a shoelace. It was a tiny piece of brass wire. Very easy to tie, like if you're tying a shoe. So we're going to replace that, and we won't tie it in. We'll probably solder it in, and but we'll see. I'll look at that closely and see probably what's best for that, and then I'll share it with the owner, and between the both of us talking about it, he'll make the call. And also, our bell's going to need a bell cord if he wants it attached. A lot of times it's better just to leave them off. They just create a nightmare. And it wouldn't be a bad idea if we leave it off here, just because over the years people handle them. But we'll talk with John Lyon about that too. Right here you could see some more. Someone used a torch here. Some more really, really beefy solder joints, and they went in and filed everything smooth. You can't even tell it's there. I wish I could do that as well as they did once upon a time. So that pipe we were talking about, that line would go into that hole there and would have a little bit of solder. You can see a little bit of solder on top there. Let's see. The indentation was there, and that's for the headlight front smoke box cover. If you wanted to put a headlight, working headlight, you'd run the wire through these holes, and you would have an opposite hole here on top of the smoke box cover, because otherwise how would you run a wire to the top here? And we already know how to take care of this big giant hole here. It's no big deal. Let's see, what else can we share with you guys more? And there you could see a center line that runs the whole length of the boiler. It's slightly off as we get towards the front, but regardless, whoever put this together just kind of was aware of that and put everything in nice, straight, level, and square the way she should be. So this is the last time we'll see this particular model, this Ada Alexander 440, in this particular raw, natural state. Maybe for another 90 years, folks. And that's I love doing this. And we're going to make sure that John Line, the owner of this particular model right here you're looking at, is going to be tickled, absolutely tickled pink when he gets this package delivered. Here's some more scribe marks you can see here. Someone put in there once upon a time. The other side does not have any. So looking from top down, as you guys look through the camera, I'm looking at the luxury of not looking through the viewfinder. These scribe marks were used to mark where, not the boiler bands, but rather where the joints between this tube, between this brass tube here, which is one size, had to climb up to meet this larger brass tube back here, which is a larger size. And they did that by putting a tapered brass portion here, and they marked the areas with a scribe mark here. Interesting. Let's see what else we could come up with real quick. When we pick up the boiler, someone put the wrapped it around, put a weight in there and stuff. And because this thing was probably still springing out because of the tension, the natural tension of metal, once you bend it, you can't bend it all the way, it'll spring back on you. And that's exactly what happened there. So they were pounding and get the form in there. You can see all the little pound marks from like a hammer, small ball peen hammer type thing. All these little circles. I think that's fantastic. I think that's unbelievable. There's little scratches and scribe marks there. More little poundings. All sorts of file marks here, up and down. See that? Just fantastic. It's a nice big thick lead weight. Hardly any detail underneath the bottom. A lot of scratching, file marks. More scribe marks here. All these air tanks we're going to fix and get them back in shape. They all get kind of bent up when you handle the model, especially when you strip a model. But look at all those. These are major hammer marks or bang dents from a ball peen hammer or something. Center punch. It's to get these two bottom halves to stay closed and not keep popping out. There's our bronze backhead detail. It's actually a piece of bronze. It's nice bronze sand casting. Let's see. And I suspect that's what we're looking at here. Probably bronze sand domes also. Let's see here. We took off a lot of the dents and stuff that I had here, and it wasn't quite round, but we made it as round as we could get it right there. So it actually looks pretty good. Looks a lot better than before. So pretty much that's let's do it like this. So that's all Ed Alexander right there. That's as naked, as raw as we're ever going to get it. Now we're going to start adding Florentino Rebuilding Company touches to it, and repairs and stuff, and then the primer and the paint. And next time somebody works on this, another 90 years from now, they're going to uncover not only Ed Alexander's work, but Florentino Rebuilding Company's work. And that's where I'm honored, extremely honored and humbled. And that's where I'm developing a lot of love for this particular model. I guarantee she's going to be $1 million when she's done. And no, I don't rush through my projects, guys. I never have, never will. Sorry about that. But they come in here, and I wouldn't take the job if I didn't like the model, whatever it happened to be. Regarding the drive shaft from the John Line, was pretty specific. He said he would like original as much as possible to this particular rebuild. I originally was going to simulate what I had already known. I had some sort of speedometer cable type drive shaft from the tender to the locomotive. So I was already going to simulate it. I came up with experiments. I came up with this guy here. But no, I talked to Art Hayes, and I go, Art, is that a speedometer cable? And he said, yep, that's exactly what it is. So I already went ahead and we got our speedometer cable. We got our speedometer cable, got a nice big, we're going to have speedometer cables coming out of the wazoo here for years and years, but that's fine. Look at how she bends, and I already tested on it, and we're going to, the two ends of the drive shaft that actually plug into the tender and the locomotive, we're going to be able to build those up all of brass also. I'm going to contact Art Hayes regarding that. See, I have a couple of tiny questions, and we'll get to that. But pretty much the hard part is pretty much over, which was the cab. Second hard part, which is not hard at all, will be the soldering. And the last part, which is a piece of cake, is the paint, and then she'll be done. So real quick, I know a lot of you guys watched the cab, how it came out and stuff, and she did. I am so happy how she came out. Square, she silver soldered. This will be another hard point where you could grab onto it if you had to, without having to worry about it coming apart. And how she works, guys, is like this. See those two holes on the back of our frame there? They're gonna match the two holes that are already there that Ed Alexander put into his kit, and you just kind of bolt the cab down there. The model, and I'm going to talk to Art Hayes about this. The model, when we got it, it goes like right here. I believe it goes right here. No, I think we had it backwards. That's what I get for looking through the viewfinder. But the model itself would sit. This is going to be interesting. Anyways, the model would sit, this piece here would sit up against here, and it was soldered together. So we're going to look into that, and a little challenge here getting this guy on. So part of the fun of the hobby. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to comment below. Critiques, criticism, advice, whatever you got to say, just make it constructive. Criticism is always good too, make it constructive. But thank you for joining me today on this fun little quick video where we took a little step back in time and we visited our Ed Alexander boiler for one last time before we start covering it in its rawest form. And just the scale model making hobby, the history involved with it, just everything you can watch on YouTube, whatever you can think of, has just made this hobby just a hell of a lot more interesting than just it was a few years ago. Just so much information now, and thank you for joining me. We'll keep up the progress. We're going to start soldering now, heavy duty. Now that I shared her one last time with us, the whole scale community, now I can start covering up with stuff. You all take care. Have an awesome rest of your weekend, and we will talk to you guys later.